Hey guys, it's another day at the book club cafe. Like it has a good ringtone to it. We're here to read The Strawberry Patch Pancake House, and I believe we're more than halfway through. We left off on chapter 24, page 209. No one was home when Archer got back from work the following Wednesday. Olive had been feeling much better and returned to school this week, and he wondered where she and Iris were. Sometimes Iris took her to the bookstore or the pool to practice for swimming, but she usually texted Archer about where they would be. He dropped his stuff by the door and made his way into the kitchen when he heard Olive's now familiar giggle from the backyard. It still made his heart swoop in his chest to hear it. When he walked out into the yard, Olive jumped up from her seat on the ground. "Surprise!" she yelled, leaping into his arms. "Wow, what is all this?" he asked. "A picnic!" Olive squirmed out of his arms as quickly as she flung herself into them and led him to the blanket set up in the center of the lawn. After a month of rain, the sun had finally graced them with its presence, and the grass was a deep green in the late afternoon sunshine. Everything smelled fresh and new. Whoever had rented the house before them had apparently planted perennials, and the yard was lined with flowers, first daffodils and now tulips. They even had a cluster of irises along the fence. The beautifully human Iris sat smiling up at him. "Welcome home," she said, and it felt true. It felt like home when he was there with the two of them. What a wild thought coming from the man who not even 2 months ago had to stand on the front step giving himself pep talks before he went in. Iris said it was the perfect day for a picnic because it's the first really warm day of spring, and she found local strawberries at the market, and we made strawberry shortcakes. "Wow," Archer said with a laugh, trying to absorb all the information Olive had just unloaded as she danced around the blanket. "Yep, we cooked for you today, Chef," Iris said with a wink, and thank God Olive was here because his desire to lean Iris back on this blanket and kissed her everywhere was very strong today. She smirked at him like she knew. "Well, this all looks delicious." He couldn't help it if his gaze wandered from the picnic feast to Iris's long legs and soft curves. An equally delicious blush worked its way up her neck. He rarely saw Iris in anything other than her PJs or her work uniform of yoga pants and a tank top. But today, on this gorgeous sunny May day, Iris was wearing a navy blue dress with strawberries and white polka dots. Slender straps grazed her shoulders, and her hair was wrapped in a bun on top of her head, exposing the long line of her neck. The rose gold strands of her hair glinted in the sunlight. She looked positively edible. But his daughter was here, and she was so excited to show him what she had made, and Archer was thankful for the distraction because he could no longer be trusted to make good and responsible decisions about Iris Fraser. He probably never could. "Are you going to tell me how you made it?" he asked, taking one of the plates of strawberry shortcake. The plate was white and dainty and covered in little blue flowers. Archer wondered where they'd come from. "Iris said not to tell you." "Oh, really? Why is that?" Iris rolled her eyes. "Because you're going to get all chefy on us and belittle our efforts." "I would never, and these look delicious." There were plenty of ways to make strawberry shortcake, but they'd gone the traditional New England route, sweet biscuits layered with whipped cream and juicy strawberries. He cut his fork through and got the perfect bite, equal parts biscuit, fruit, and cream. He widened his eyes for full dramatic effect. "Liv, these are amazing." He'd taken to shortening her name, and it felt good. It felt like they were becoming a real family. His daughter beamed. "They are? Oh yeah, you did a good job." "Well," Iris helped with the oven part. "Just doing my duty as the sous chef," Iris said with a grin. "So, you're really not going to tell me your secret?" he asked. Olive glanced at Iris, and Iris shrugged. "I guess you can tell him. There's enough secret recipes in his life already." Archer chuckled. "Thanks for taking pity on me." Olive leaned in closer. "We used a mix for the biscuits and whipped cream in a can." Archer leaned in and whispered back, "Well, it tastes better than my strawberry shortcake." "Really?" "Yep." He planted a kiss on Olive's nose. "Good job, chef." He didn't think it was possible for Olive to smile any bigger, but somehow she was doing it. And when he glanced at Iris, she was smiling at him too. That soft smile she only did when she thought he wasn't looking, his favorite smile, the one that wasn't playful or mischievous, the one that he hoped showed her real feelings. She looked away. Wow, Olive. Now I'm dying to try one. With that, they all dug into their cakes and washed them down with pink lemonade and delicate teacups. Archer complimented Olive's dress and the whole picnic surprise idea, and she told him about her day, with Iris popping in to fill in pertinent details, and the sun warmed the earth beneath them, and the flowers bloomed, and the birds chirped, and Archer once again felt his life flip upside down, because he liked this. He liked coming home early. He liked talking to Olive. He liked having a picnic in the damn sunshine. He liked it a hell of a lot more than striving and pushing towards some unachievable career goal. This day, this life felt like a different type of achievement. The type that only required his presence, not his perfection. And he really liked Iris sitting next to him. He liked that by the time the sun was getting lower and the air chillier, that her body leaned against his. He wanted to pull her closer, to tuck her under his arm. He wanted to put Olive to bed and talk about their day. The man who had once only thought about his goals, about being the best, about perfection, about himself, now just wanted a sunny afternoon picnic with his favorite girls. How was that for a surprise? Okay, good. Now we're going to practice putting your face in the water, Iris said, gesturing at the pool. Archer had left work early to rush over to the Y to catch some of Olive's swimming lesson with Iris. The girls hadn't noticed him yet, though. They were the only two in the pool, and Iris's voice echoed in the big space. Olive looked at Iris like she had lost her mind. I don't want to. Trust me, it's important. No, it's not. I can swim with my face up like this, see? Olive doggy paddled around the shallow end with her little face above the water, and Archer had to stifle his laugh. That's nice, but what if you want to jump in? Then you'll catch me. Olive's blind trust in Iris made his heart swell. What if you want to jump in by yourself? Olive shook her head. I don't want to. I think you should try it, or at least try, Iris trailed off as she glanced up and caught Archer lingering by the door. Hey, he raised his hand in a sheepish wave. I hope it's okay I come. I left a little early so I could see some of Olive's lesson. He left work early. That was a monumental statement from him, and judging by the look on Iris's face, she thought so too. But everything had slid into place over the last few weeks. He was all in with Olive. That was right, and he knew it now. He wanted to be a dad. He wanted this life. Of course it's okay, Iris said, still studying him with a mildly surprised look on her face. Olive scrambled up the steps to greet him. Hey, Liv. She hugged him around his legs, completely soaking his pants with her wet body. You came to see me swim? She asked, gazing up at him so adoringly that Archer was sure Iris was right about his face turning soft and gooey when he looked at his kid. He was basically a human puddle at this point. Yeah, let me see what you've learned, he said, detaching her arms from his knees. Okay, but Iris has to catch me, she said, coming to the edge of the pool and lining her toes up on the edge. Iris came closer, her body rising out of the water in the waist-deep shallow end, and Archer was afraid he might have to excuse himself from the rest of the lesson. She was gorgeous. Of course she was. She always was. But she was in a bathing suit, and his body was completely ignoring the fact that he should not be noticing that right now. His gaze snagged on her bare arms, the curve of her breast in the utilitarian swimsuit that was sexy as hell, simply because she was the one wearing it. He lingered over the sight of her until she cleared her throat and his attention snapped back to Olive. Right. Not the time or the place for that. He tried to discreetly adjust his pants, but Iris caught him, a knowing smirk on her plush lips. She shook her head at him and turned back to Olive. Okay, Olive. 1, 2, 3. The little girl launched herself in the air and Iris caught her, not letting her head dip below the water. Archer's breath caught as she landed in the pool, but he trusted Iris too, completely. He knew she would keep Olive safe. Did you see that? Olive called as she doggy paddled back to the stairs. I did. That was amazing. I'm going to do it again. She jumped over and over, and each time Iris caught her and Archer cheered. And it felt like maybe Olive was going to be okay. Maybe they'd mended something in her little heart. Hey, Liv, I think you're ready to put your face under, he said, crouching down at the edge of the pool. She crinkled her nose. I don't think so. You can do it, Iris told her, and I'm right here. I'll scoop you right up if you need me. And I'll scoop you both up if you need me, Archer said, catching the smile Iris tried to hide. Olive looked between the two of them, and Archer could feel the shift the moment Olive realized that maybe she trusted them too. Okay, she said slowly, but you have to stay right there. She pointed at the edge of the pool. I won't move, even if you do a giant splash and get me all wet, Archer assured her. Oh, that's a good idea, Iris said. Let's see if you can splash your dad. Olive's face lit up with mischief at that idea. Foregoing the countdown, she launched herself into the water before Archer could stand back up and completely soaked him. She burst out of the water with a triumphant smile on her face. Did I get you? Archer shook the water from his hair. You sure did. Yay, I'm going to do it again. Wonderful, Archer grumbled, but Iris caught his eye, a huge smile on her face to match Olive's, and the whole thing was totally worth the wet clothes. After their lesson was done, the girls changed into dry clothes and met Archer in the lobby. I'm really glad I came, he said, nudging Iris's shoulder as they walked out to the car. You're a great teacher. Well, you provided great motivation, she said with a laugh. Will you come next time, Dad? Olive asked, grabbing his hand as they walked out into the parking lot. Dad. She was holding his hand. She wanted him to come to the next lesson. How could he possibly say no? Not to mention, he'd be a fool to pass up the chance to see Iris in a bathing suit again. Chapter 25, page 217. What's on the pancake menu tonight, Chef? Iris asked, wandering out into the kitchen after tucking Olive into bed and reading her extra stories and catching and releasing the spider that was living in the corner of her bedroom and bringing her fresh water. It was a whole thing. Sometimes Olive insisted Iris do it, and sometimes she demanded Archer do it, and sometimes she liked them to do it together in a way that was uncomfortably domestic for Iris. They started the bedtime procedure over an hour ago, and Iris was only mildly convinced that Olive was going to stay put. Archer was in his usual position behind the kitchen island in his usual after-work outfit of a fitted tee and gray sweatpants that made Iris absolutely feral. But instead of cooking, he was reading over his notes from the town meeting 2 weeks ago. Just trying to figure out what to try next, he frowned, although half of these ideas are just new things people want to see on the menu. He looked up at her as she slid onto her stool. Give it to me straight. Is this whole town just fucking with me? Like, is there even an original recipe for these pancakes, or is this all some kind of joke to chase me out of town? Iris shrugged. It's hard to tell with this crowd. Probably a bit of both. His frown deepened. Don't get me wrong, Iris continued. There's definitely a much beloved pancake recipe out there somewhere, but there is also probably a good amount of fucking with you going on, she added with a smile. Wonderful, he grumbled. You're grouchy tonight. She wondered if the increasing amount of sexual frustration building up in her was also the reason for his grouchiness. The way he looked at her, she thought maybe she was right. His eyes were dark and a slight flush had worked its way up to his cheeks. His gaze kept wandering to where her oversized t-shirt had slipped off her shoulder. She remembered what he'd said about that, about wanting to graze his teeth over the skin there, and God, did she want him to do that. Realistically, if she had met Archer in some other circumstance, she was certain they would have slept together and moved on by now. They were fighting their natures by avoiding the inevitable this whole time, and honestly, she wasn't sure she could do it anymore. Maybe she'd been blowing this whole thing way out of proportion in her mind. They didn't have to become some official couple and parade their relationship in front of the whole town and the freaking custody lawyer. What happened in this kitchen stayed in this kitchen. No one had to know, especially not Olive. Fooling around with Archer did not have to be that serious. She hopped off her stool and came to his side on the island, which, of course, was a terrible idea, but Iris was no longer thinking with her brain. She was thinking with her lady parts, her very keyed-up lady parts, who demanded to be closer to him. I'm going to be your sous chef, she said with a smirk. Teach me what to do. He stared down at her like he was fully aware of what she was doing and also fully aware that it was a bad idea, but he didn't tell her no. You want me to teach you to make pancakes? He asked, his body close to hers, warm and solid. He always showered right after work, and he smelled like soap and laundry detergent he used that made his shirt so soft. She was probably going to keep the one she slept in when they were drunk. Yes, chef, she said, and his eyes sparkled in delight. Okay, Iris, I'll teach you. Neither of them moved. They stood face to face, just waiting to see who would break first. They were both sober tonight. Anything that happened now would be because they both chose it. Archer reached out and tucked the stray hair behind her ear, his knuckles brushing against her cheek, and Iris's eyes fluttered closed. Thank God. This hair makes me crazy, he said. Because it's a health code violation to have it down while I'm cooking? Because it's a health code violation to have it down while I'm cooking, she asked, opening her eyes and finding Archer staring at her hungrily. He shook his head. No, Iris, that's not why. Then why? Her voice was just a breath. He took his head again like he shook his head again like he wasn't going to answer, but instead he squeezed his eyes shut and said, because I want to see it draped across my pillow. I want it wrapped around my fist. Christ, Iris, I want you so bad and I don't know what to do about it anymore. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing her body against his. He let out a soft groan. Give in, she whispered. His eyes were still closed. The muscle in his jaw ticked. Iris held her breath. And then his hands were on her waist, his fingers digging into her flesh as he lifted her onto the counter of the island. Her surprised gasp was swallowed by his mouth on hers, greedy and hot. He kissed like he did everything else in this kitchen with perfection and complete dedication. He deepened the kiss, his tongue sliding against hers, his fingers in her hair, and all Iris could do was hold on. She wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer as her hands roved across the muscles of his back. This t-shirt has to go. She grabbed his shirt from the bottom and pulled it up, breaking the kiss only long enough to get the shirt off and tossed it to the side. She ran her hands across all the firm muscle and soft hair that combined perfectly to create Archer. God, he was hot. This was hot. Iris was melting or burning. Was it possible to come just from kissing? From kissing Archer Bear? Maybe it was, because Iris had never been kissed like this before, like she was Archer's last meal, or his first after he'd been starving for years. It was all-consuming, urgent, and insistent. This wasn't just a kiss. It was an assault, a release of all the tension that had been building between them for weeks. Iris, he groaned, pulling away and resting his forehead against hers. Don't say it. This is a bad idea. It was a bad idea. She knew it was a bad idea, except right now in this exact moment, she was having a hard time remembering why it was a bad idea. Because he was her boss? That only made it hotter. Because of Olive? As long as she never found out, as long as Iris didn't make any promises she couldn't keep, everything would be fine. Iris could kiss Archer by night and care for Olive by day. No problem. It didn't have to get complicated. It could just be this, two people kissing like their lives depended on it. Because of that tender part of her heart that kept flaring up every time she saw Olive and Archer together, that was easily ignored. Especially right now when Archer had his fingers in her hair and his half-naked body pressed up against her. She could ignore the hell out of that tender spot. She kissed him again, nibbling his bottom lip. I know, but let's keep going anyway. His laugh tickled her face. What happens when this doesn't work out? When what doesn't work out? This fantastic makeout session? Because I think it's working out just fine. Archer pulled back a little further, studying her face. Just a makeout session? Iris smiled. Just a harmless makeout session between friends. No big deal. No big deal at all. This was just a we need to make out or we'll explode, so let's just take care of it, like adults moment. It didn't have to be anything else. No big deal, Archer echoed as she pulled him back in. Exactly, she smiled against his mouth, and he slid his hands down to her ass, tugging her even closer so he was nestled between her thighs. She ignored the slight tilt of disappointment in his voice, the look on his face that said maybe he didn't want this to be just a makeout session between friends. She put those things in the same little box she'd put her tender feelings for him and tucked it right back behind her spleen, where she'd never have to think about it. Archer must have tucked it away too, because he was kissing her again, thoroughly and enthusiastically, his hands roving her body. Sure, Iris, he murmured against her lips. This is just... He kept starting sentences and then breaking them off with more kisses, never finishing his thought, but making it pretty clear what he was thinking nonetheless. Let me touch you? His hand was on her inner thigh now, so close to the bottom of her tiny shorts that Iris felt like she would combust if he didn't touch her. Yes, Chef, she purred against the soft shell of his ear and smiled at his answering groan. You have got to stop doing that, he said, or I'm really going to embarrass myself. Iris's laughter was cut off abruptly by the feel of Archer's fingers slipping beneath her. He didn't waste time. He found her and pressed with his thumb, and Iris momentarily lost consciousness. Holy shit, Archer, she breathed, and it was his turn to smirk. Like that? Yes, like that. And her voice hitched and more, and she wiggled her hips a little, side to side, and Archer immediately caught on. Okay, you guys can read that part. Okay. Okay, I will have you guys read on to 224. It's like being a teenager, but in reverse. Archer looked confused. Like being worried your parents are going to catch you making out on the couch, but now we're worried about your kids catching us. And kissing Olive's dad in the kitchen probably wouldn't do much for her. We're never getting married argument. Right, Archer huffed a pained laugh. And I don't think I can afford doubling her therapy sessions if she catches us. Right, Iris said, hopping down from the counter on two shaky legs. Archer steadied her with a hand on her elbow. Sorry, I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. His words were stern, final. But what about you? Iris gestured to the front of his sweatpants. Okay, finish that those two sentences. Good night, Iris, he said, planting one more searing kiss on her lips before turning and walking down the hall. When he went into the bathroom instead of his bedroom, Iris had to lean against the counter. Her legs were weak again. Somehow that intense kitchen counter blank wasn't nearly enough, and now thinking about Archer in the shower, thinking about her, it was too much. Time for bed, Iris, and good luck sleeping. Wow. I was not going to read that out loud. Chapter 26, page 227. You okay, Chef? Cyrus's question broke Archer out of his daydream. His very not appropriate for work daydream. He cleared his throat. Yes, fine. Cyrus smirked. Really? Because you just covered that plate of pancakes with salad dressing. Archer looked down at the mess in front of him. Shit. He dumped the ruined breakfast in the trash. Can I get another batch? Yes, Chef, Cyrus chuckled. What's got you so distracted? Not what. Who? It had been 2 days since the kitchen counter incident, and Archer had not stopped thinking about it, Iris since. Her mouth and her heat and her sounds. Christ, her sounds, those gasps and moans, were running a loop in his head, an obscene soundtrack to his day. He'd barely spoken to her since keeping Olive as a buffer between them during the day, and quitting his nighttime pancake making in case she came out to join him. He didn't know what he would do if she did. He wanted Iris in too many ways now. Nothing, he muttered, certainly not about to explain any of that to his cook. Ah, Cyrus said with a knowing nod as he poured more batter onto the griddle. It's a woman. It's not. That's not it. The older man chuckled. Okay, sure. You just ruined 3 plates this morning because you're thinking about the weather. Just make the damn pancakes, Chef. Cyrus shook his head with another laugh. Yes, Chef. Hey, Chef, the mayor's at table 3. He wants to talk to you, Jess said as she came skidding through the double doors into the kitchen. Slow down, Archer barked as he strode past her. Jess gave him a mock salute. Cyrus, those pancakes, he yelled on his way out of the kitchen, knowing he was taking his shitty, frustrated mood out on his staff, but unable to stop himself. And now the mayor wanted to talk to him. If the man had one more note about his latest attempt at the sacred pancakes, Archer might snap completely. He wanted Iris, bad, and in so many more ways than he should, and he didn't know what to do about it, and it was bringing out his asshole tendencies. He took a deep breath before stopping at the mayor's table. Good morning, Mayor. Everything all right? Mayor Kelly smiled up at him. Hi, Archer, Hazel said from the other side of the table. How's Olive feeling? Hey, Hazel, much better, thanks. We love the new pancakes, Archie, the mayor said, and Archer almost didn't hate the nickname when it followed a compliment. Wonderful. And the specials board was a great idea. Archer glanced at where he'd listed Noah's blueberry pancakes as today's special. He'd done it on a whim, remembering that it was Noah who'd requested blueberry pancakes at the meeting. Glad you like it, sir. The mayor waved away Archer's politeness. Call me Pete. Anyway, I'm sure the town will love this new idea. Dread started to seep into Archer's gut. New idea? People will love to see their name on the board and try all the new pancakes. Was that his new idea, to make everyone's suggestions and then name the pancakes after them? It wasn't the worst idea, actually, and maybe it would get everyone off his back about the damn original recipe. You know, Pete went on, I had a dream that this diner was actually a pancake house. You dreamt about the diner? Hazel huffed a laugh. He dreams about all kinds of things. Pete shrugged. I'm usually very accurate. Archer glanced between father and daughter and tried to figure out if they were serious. It was impossible to tell, so he just nodded. I will keep that in mind. Pete smiled. Wonderful. And how are things working out with Iris? Heat rushed to Archer's face. Did the mayor somehow know what he did to his nanny on the kitchen counter? Is she working out as Olive's nanny? The mayor prompted when Archer just stood there like an idiot. Yes, she's a great nanny. Glad to hear it. I'm really happy you're settling in here in Dream Harbor. Archer nodded dumbly. Settling in here in Dream Harbor. That was what he was doing, of course. Settling in and wanting Iris to settle in with him. Right. He cleared his throat again, and Hazel gave him a little smile that said she knew everything he was thinking, which was highly alarming. I should get back to the kitchen. Of course, big breakfast, crowd to feed. See you later. Bye, Archer, Hazel called as he turned and made his way back through the crowded dining room and into the kitchen. He needed to do something about Iris and fast. He didn't even recognize himself anymore, so distracted by a woman that he was screwing up orders, that he was fantasizing about things he'd never wanted in his life. But what he didn't know was if he should push her away or pull her closer. Iris was teaching an aquatic aerobics class, and she was pretty sure she was doing the movements correctly and calling the instructions loud enough, and that she was totally tricking everyone into thinking she wasn't thinking about Archer's hands and lips and what he could do with those hands and lips. And Iris, her name echoed through the pool room. Her playlist had ended. She blinked to find a group of half a dozen seniors staring at her. Right, okay, so maybe she wasn't doing the best job of not being distracted. Sorry, ladies, let's just cool down. No way, Marissa piped up. What's got you so dreamy-eyed, Iris? Uh-oh, the ladies sensed drama, and they loved drama. And over the years, she'd set an unfortunate pattern of spilling the tea to her beloved students. But this wasn't some fling. This drama was about Archer. And for a million concerning reasons, that felt different. It's nothing, really. Iris dumped her shoulders and lifted her feet out of the water, using her hands to stay afloat. Sure, said Carol, swimming closer. And that's why you stopped telling us what to do about 10 minutes ago, and we've all just been flopping around like fish in here until the song stopped. Iris's cheek flushed. Okay, here's the thing, she started, and the ladies gathered closer. Have you ever met someone that made you seriously reconsider everything you've ever thought you wanted? The woman's eyes widened. Janet whistled. Wow, she's got it bad. I don't have it bad. Estelle raised her eyebrows. Iris? Okay, fine. I have it a little bit bad, but here's the thing. He's making me, want stuff I never thought I wanted, and now I'm confused. What kind of stuff? Like being tied up or something? Marissa asked. Iris flashed her. No, not sex stuff, like actual life stuff. You know me, ladies. You know I'm not into keeping men around. But you want to keep this one? Janet asked. I don't know. It's complicated. There are other factors. If she said the whole he was a kid thing out loud, they know immediately who she was talking about. And even though they probably already did, she didn't feel like admitting it yet. We probably just need to have sex, and then I can stop feeling all weird about everything. You haven't had sex yet? The shock in Marissa's voice was enough to illustrate exactly how the majority of Iris's relationships went. Hot but quick. Well, let's just say he's very good with his hands, Iris grinned and then sunk beneath the water, the sounds of the women laughing and hooting following her below the surface. Maybe she was right. Maybe she needed to sleep with Archer and get all the pent-up sexual frustration out of her body, and then she'd be able to think straight. Then she'd remember that she had no desire to have a serious relationship or a kid or a long-term anything. This thing between them could be purely physical with no harm done to Olive. Now she just had to convince Archer. Wow. I can't even say anything. It's crazy, like how fast a book can go. We all knew this was going to happen. We all knew it was going to get hot and heavy, and now It hasn't all gotten all the way yet, hot and heavy, but it's there. So we're going to end this session on chapter 27, page 233. And I'm going to film the next video right now for next week. Or so I can go ahead and pre-film some for you guys so we don't get backlogged. But look how much we have left. Barely any. But I hope you guys like the outfit. It's the one I got from Shein. And then this is my, what's her name? Kate Spade for Target line. And this I got at Dollar Tree. So yeah. Okay, so I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.